Where are you going?
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our third Parent Community Forum regarding the Salamanca City Central School District reopening plans. Please note, if you are joining us via Zoom and you have a question, please submit it to the chat box with your name and the name of the building your child or children attend and submit your question. We will try to get through them in order, but we may bounce around just a little bit. As we wind down and talk about the reopening plans, I think it's important to note that our entire plan is predicated on the safety of our students, staff, and community, grounded in wellness, and to maintain the continuity of high-quality instruction, whether it be in person, digital, or hybrid. The efforts of our staff, regardless of their title or their role, can't be underscored in its importance in keeping us safe, well, and preserve our ability to instruct children in a meaningful way, and for staff to grow also. As we unveil our plan and soon start to have staff in our buildings as of next week for 2 days of professional development on the 26th and 27th, and then return for online e-learning starting September 1st. We want to thank our community for helping us get to this point and recognize that we are trying to answer all of your questions, but there are still some questions that we do not know the answer to just yet. Dr. Beeler will outline how we are keeping track of those concerns. And with that, I just want to thank everyone for joining us. Thank you for your help to this point in time. And for now, I'll turn it over to Dr. Beeler.
Einstein, and good evening once again, ladies and gentlemen. You'll see in the chat section of the Zoom that we are asking that you submit, and you may have mentioned this already, but we don't have too many questions coming up. The name, your name, the building that your students are going to, and then pose the question. As those are beginning to filter in, I'd like to just talk a little bit about how we got to the plan that we do have and why we are presenting tonight actually in the format that we are. We could present this in a variety of different ways, collect questions electronically, and then read off answers. But we have developed this plan with the intent and overall goal of being 100% transparent. This isn't any one particular person's plan. This is a plan that has been developed after 2 parent and student and community surveys, 1 staff survey, 9 specific Zoom meetings that were designated by buildings. We had 3 district Zoom meetings that were separated. We've had 1 public hearing, and then the plan was put online for feedback. So that plan was established in the last week of July and has been on our website and has been available for public comment. As comments have been made, the plan has been changed. As Mr. Bridenstine said, tonight our goal is to get more feedback from you, the parents and community members, so that we can make the plan better. It isn't necessarily stump Dr. Beeler and Mr. Bridenstine. It is, let's work together to come up with what a plan will be that is in the best interest of our community, our staff, and our students. What I'd like to do though is just share a couple places that you can go to get information at your will. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen, and what you will see is the district website. This is, www.salamanca.ny.org. If you scroll down just a little bit, you will find the district reopening plan link. So you are one click away from the latest information that we have that's available for our community. You'll see that this page was updated today on the 19th. You'll see a link here to the history of how this plan was developed. On the left-hand side in red, you will see the current safety and education plan. You'll see where you can provide feedback. And then you'll also see what our current work in progress is. So this is quite literally what we did today. We have finished and completed collecting the parent questions about whether they would like to have their students in a completely hybrid or completely e-learning format. Today at noon, we collaborated with the building principals and our transportation department to identify the students that will need transportation. He is right now establishing bus runs that are based upon that. That information with regard to busing and times will be sent to the principals, who within the next few days will put that together into a letter to our families. So you'll also see on here, so that's a little bit of sort of where we are quite literally right now as we have our work laid out in front of us. So you'll also see what our philosophy is that we've taken toward developing this plan and our approach toward the COVID crisis overall. We have said consistently since day one, if the district cannot open our buildings to students and staff safely, we are not going to open our buildings. We understand and fully respect the gravity and magnitude of what we are doing by having hundreds of staff members come to one location from Western New York, and by having hundreds of students come into our buildings. We recognize that. We believe we have established a safe process for education to continue in person, and that's what we're going to execute as we move forward. In the event, just so we're all on the same page, that we identify that we cannot do it safely, if we put this in place and have students and staff on site, and 1 week in, we recognize that there are too many safety concerns, we will simply switch to a 100% e-learning process and until we can do it correctly. So you'll also see our educational philosophy here. The goal is to prioritize the requests from parents and guardians, whether they be completely e-learning, hybrid, or in-person instruction as much as possible. We are going to focus on e-learning. We're referring to the remote learning by the name e-learning, just so that we don't get confused over vocabulary terms. So e-learning is electronic learning. Since the spring, we have made some very significant advancements in how that occurs, the technologies and the accountability that we'll talk about shortly. But we're going to focus on e-learning because we need to be prepared should either we have an issue with COVID or the governor simply says, tomorrow you're 100% remote. We need to have that preparation down so that we do not lose 1 day of instruction. We are also going to prioritize the social and emotional well-being of our students and staff. We know that school as we know it and knew it to be is no longer going to look that way. So that in and of itself is going to cause a significant amount of stress. We recognize that, and we will do everything possible to assess the social and emotional well-beings, not only of just our students, but of our staff as well. And then we're committed to returning our students on a gradual spectrum. We're going to do that with our younger students first, and that's primarily because of the nature of how instruction is delivered at the high school level, with varying teachers, varying certification areas, and then the need generally for students to move about the building a lot. At the younger grade levels, we can control that a lot more. So just going through where you can find access to information, you'll see the frequently asked questions. There you'll find, first off, is the person who has been charged with being and coordinating the development of the plan. That would be myself. There is my personal cell phone number. If you have questions, concerns, our goal, my goal is to be 100% accessible and transparent. So there's my phone number. Some updated information that's relatively new as far as school start times. The staff will be reporting to all of our buildings, and their hours are from 8 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. That's at all 3 buildings. For Prospect and Seneca, for those individual students who have identified that they wish to come onto the campus, drop-off will occur sort of staggered between 8:20 and 8:40, and dismissal will be between 1:50 and 2:10. There's several other items that are on here, most of which have been asked, and I think we've done a pretty good job of communicating it. But just a couple things that come up consistently. Technology will be distributed on the 26th and 27th. We will provide Wi-Fi hotspots to those individuals that do not have internet access. We're also working on community internet at various locations, similar to what we did with school buses in the spring, but just better. Lunches will still be provided along with breakfast to students who are on campus, and then we're identifying locations where lunches can be picked up on a daily basis. And then the big question is, when will the plan be finalized? The reality is that this plan is going to be ever evolving. We believe we have it substantially complete at this point in time, but moving forward, as we hear from the community, as we hear from teachers, as we see things as they develop whilst individuals are on campus, we will make changes to it. You'll also find some of the recently required information that needs to be put out. This is the 3rd of 3 public forums. We've held ones previous to the governor's requirement, but since then we've had additional 3. This is the 3rd one. A question about how the district will be testing students and employees for COVID-19. We are not requiring and we are not executing tests ourselves of our staff or students before they come. We have developed a relationship with Telemed Mobile Medicine for testing. We are also working with the Seneca Nation to coordinate the testing of students, and we can assist staff members if they need to get tested as well. One other required piece of information is contact tracing. That will be done by Mr. Ray Haley, who is our security and safety coordinator. He will coordinate the actions with the Cattaraugus Health Department and the State Health Department, should that become necessary, but he is our designated contact tracer. So at this point, you may or may not know me, but I could talk for the next 3 hours just alone. But let's go to some of the questions that we have in front of us. And typically what happens here is Mr. Bridenstine and I go back and forth between the two. If there are questions that we cannot answer, then we will simply say, we don't have the answer for that at this point in time. I do actually, like I said, I can talk for a while. One thing that I just want to mention is I'm going back to that page. You'll see under the additional FAQs, frequently asked questions, that will take us to all of the questions that have been asked of us up to this point. And I'll tell you, we're a little bit behind in updating some of these, but these are all questions from the 13th that have been asked. We will be updating this very shortly, including the questions from tonight. So if something comes up and you don't remember what the answer is, you'll know where to find that. All right, Mr. Bridenstine, you want to take the first one?
So we'll take the first one from Susan regarding construction, specifically at Prospect. And substantial completion at Prospect is scheduled to be completed on August 31st. So on the 26th and 27th, when staff returns, there will still be some construction occurring in the building, mostly in the kitchen. And then the building will be turned over to the district with substantial completion and certificate of occupancies being done. And that will include air conditioning at Prospect. Up at the high school and the Seneca campus, there is some work being done on the roofs, which will be done at the end of September, but that will not interfere with instruction or programs or staff. The biggest issue is the high school main entrance parking lot, which will be completed and turned over to us by the end of next week. With regard to construction occurring in school, once staff and students are in session, starting on September 1st, the footprint and physical presence of contractors will be very minimal, but work will still be continuing with great excitement over at Betts Park.
Thank you. So one thing, just so that everyone's on the same page, if we answer a question, we're giving the best answer as far as how we've interpreted that question. If that's not the right answer that you were looking for, or if we've interpreted that question, please don't be afraid to ask it again. We're not looking to dodge a question. We're really just trying to make sure as things come up, we see them written on the side, we read it, and we may interpret it a little bit differently. So, and if we overlook it, if it gets lost, just ask it again. We will get to all the questions. So a question, I have a student at Prospect and one at Seneca in the hybrid. What day will they be attending? That was just determined today at noon, and information will be coming out. I can tell you this, they will be coming on the same 2 days. We did our best to not only identify what students need to come in and what household, but ensure that they come, even if they're in different buildings, that they come to school on the same days. So that took us a little longer to weed through and coordinate, but I would say, Ms. Pavone, by next week, Tuesday, will that information be going out?
That's our goal. And I think we can safely say if you had a sibling in Prospect and Seneca, we put you on Mondays and Tuesdays. If you had a sibling within just the same building, so if both siblings were in Prospect or both siblings were in Seneca, we put you on Thursday and Friday. It's not 100% guaranteed, but we're pretty close to, we really tried very hard to do it that way.
Great, thank you. And as we're talking about the education plan or format, a couple times people have said, okay, can I change? Listen, we fully understand that you may not be comfortable sending your son or daughter to school on the first days that we're open, and you know, to sort of see how things go. We recognize that. You will be able to change. I feel like I'm selling a phone plan or something. You will be able to change the education plan that you have selected for your child. Just recognize that it will take us a few days to get that organized. Now, if you say, okay, I'm selected the hybrid plan and you're not comfortable, something arises, changes at home, whatever, you say, I'd like to go to e-learning, we can make that change within a couple days. But just recognize if you're on the home 100% e-learning plan and wish to start having your child come to school, That takes us a little bit longer to coordinate. We have to coordinate bus pickups. We have to make sure we don't exceed bus capacities. We have to get them scheduled into classes. So we're anticipating that that could take between 5 and 10 days. Once we get this a system under a little bit more familiarity to us, we'll be able to do that more quickly. But at this point in time, just please recognize you can change plans. But if you're going from a strictly e-learning to a hybrid, it will take several days for us to get things coordinated for you. All right, you're up, Mr. B.
Okay, there was a follow-up question with regard to helping children who are learning at home, particularly from a grandparent's perspective. I'll start and then I'll toss it back to the principals to see if I made sure that I answered the question competently enough. We expect that there will be some needs within the community to help families and younger children in particular dial into the e-learning for the first 2 weeks. We will have individuals available that can provide support and assistance, whether they're teachers, teacher assistants, counselors, social workers, or other school personnel, to make sure that the quality of the instruction starting on September 1st is as rigorous as we can make it as students get back into the swing of things. Not terribly different than when students first enter in a typical school year. After that, there will be regular check-ins, whether the parents or grandparents are letting us know that a particular child is having difficulties connecting. We will have a help desk open if there are technical hardware connectivity issues, and we will have staff available to provide some additional support to students if they're having difficulty with the content and the instruction, even outside of that. For our secondary or older students, we anticipate coming online shortly to have help desks from an instructional standpoint, because we know from the first shutdown, our high school students in particular are not on the same biological clock as adults. They tend to want to sleep in for a significant portion of the day and then come out at night and actually start their work much later than the adults are probably awake. So we're looking at working with some college-age students and some additional staff to provide evening hours and weekend tutoring for some of our older students based on content. Principals, any other comments on some of the supports that we have in place for kids?
We are looking at developing some after-school help for those that may be working during the day and may not be able to get on to Zoom during the daytime. So we are looking at that. That's not something that's going to happen right away. It's going to take time for us to transition to that. But I believe all three buildings are planning on having those additional hours for extra support.
Okay, let's see. So Justin had a question to which I don't have a terrific answer. Simply for those of us where both parents work, or even a single parent who works, how are we supposed to be at work and at a computer at the same time? Unfortunately, I don't have a great answer for you. And this is where we have to come up with a balance between bringing students on campus as much as possible. Trust me, I've got 3 kids at home. My wife and I both work. I feel your pain. One child does great. The other is just happy gaming all day and thinks he's going to be a successful gamer, but I'm not so confident in that work plan. But I will tell you that we have made some very significant advancements depending upon the age of your child. We anticipate that students will be much more capable and much more successful of managing their time without being consistently monitored. We will have a 9 to 9, so 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Assistance line for parents, so that you can just pick up the phone and call if you need to be able to see what your child owes, what they're struggling with. At the same time, we're going to have not only our teachers, but our support staff reaching out on a regular basis, because every day we will be, even for everyone who's online 100%, we'll be taking attendance, and we now have measures, ways to measure the level of engagement. And if a student is not actively engaged, we will work with that student and the parents to see what we can do to bring them onto campus more frequently. The big picture here is that we're entering into this with a significant amount of control, very constrained timeframes, a start and end time, a very limited number of people on campus, until we are confident that we can bring more and more people onto campus in a safe manner. Now, I can't tell you that by November or December, we're going to be up to 75% of people on campus, but that would certainly be a goal. What we're saying right now with the e-learning and hybrid approach is our initial go, and that will likely change after we get more familiarity and we see what students and staff are capable of doing. I'll tell you that our plan, just, how does this work for the first few days? The 26th and 27th, we have staff coming in. They're going to be undergoing professional development, a lot of time on simply what the safety rules are. School, as you recognized it in the fall last year, is drastically different. High frequency areas where people are, water fountains are no longer to be used. Vending machines are no longer to be used. We don't have pens and pencils for people to simply pick up. Anything where cross-contamination can occur is gone. Hallways are divided in two, with one side going one direction, the other going another. If a hallway is too narrow for bidirectional travel, it's been identified as one direction. So students have to, and adults for that matter, have to figure out the workflow just simply around the building. The reality is it will take our adults many days to be familiar with these scenarios and understand what the new processes are, simply to get from one place to another and how to communicate with each other. So that happens on the 26th and 27th. E-learning for the entire district starts on September 1st. We will spend another week making sure that our adults are comfortable and that we are confident that we can start bringing students onto campus the following Monday, which is the 7th. We will be working with families to say, on this particular day, this isn't set in stone, but let's say on Monday, we will be bringing third graders and fourth graders. You can come onto the campus, you'll have a time, and you can come with your child as an adult onto campus so that you can see what school looks like and your child can see what school is going to look like. All of that will be phased in before regular hybrid instruction, so in-person instruction, starts on the following week. That's just a little bit, and I think that might answer a couple of the questions that are here that have been asked, but that's what the first couple weeks of school are going to look like. I know there's a question about Boces and transportation. You want to take that one?
Yes. If students are attending Boces career technical education classes, Boces has informed us that students will be able to drive if they are 16 and have their license, and we'll follow that protocol as directed by Boces. If a student is attending Boces for career tech ed and they need transportation, we will be providing that every day that they are attending. Pickup times for that will be coordinated, and as Dr. Beeler said, we're working on the transportation routing today based on who has identified that they are comfortable sending their students in, and that information will be coming out next week.
All right, I got called out on September 7th. I actually mean September 8th. Thank you. So we will not have school on Labor Day, but we will start with the 8th. We talked about that. Schedule. I did a little bit on the orientation. Why don't we hear from the principals? You guys are probably tired already of hearing what I have to say. Mr. Siebert, will you talk a little bit about how you envision the e-learning looking at the high school and how you're going to communicate over the next week with parents and students?
Certainly. So for the e-learning that's going to start at the high school, all the teachers will be uploading their lessons to class pages. And initially, we're going to have an actual scavenger hunt that will be coming out on September 1st that will allow the students to kind of get a walkthrough on what the actual class pages look like and how to access all the different platforms of class pages. And then, and again, the teachers will then be uploading their lessons to the class pages in which the students then can access it really anytime during the day. So there's not really a set schedule of when they have to access it. The teachers come next week, the 25th and 26th, will be developing hours for them to have students log in and talk to them about any of the questions that they may have. That'll be during the actual school day. And then as we progress, we're, I think through the surveys that were sent out, we have identified some students that will benefit from coming to school and continuing their e-learning here in a supportive environment. We will, and again, it's going to be kind of a tiered approach. As we make progress with those students, we'll find that other students may need some more one-on-one individualized instruction where they're actually working with a teacher in a subject area. So that's kind of the long-term, and it'll just develop as we find the needs for the students that are, that we need to do better at meeting.
Thank you. I'm just going to expand on that before I go to Mrs. Beaver to answer the same questions. So Lisa said, what is the structure going to be for e-learning at Seneca and the high school? And are there going to be schedules? Is it just going to be a free-for-all? I can tell you this, that we have made some very significant advancements and improvements. We'll admit, we believe we did a pretty good job in the spring. But at the same time, there's an awful lot of improvements that could be made. Our teachers, our students and parents have been working over the past several weeks to establish a set of expectations for e-learning. So in other words, everything from where you should be in your house to what you should do with your camera, how we interact online, and what the simple expectations are for performance. It's not going to be you lay in bed, click join class and then take a nap for the next 40 minutes while the class is going on. That is not acceptable by any measures. So those expectations will be coming out shortly. There will be scheduled times, both when lessons are presented and when students will need to check in with their teachers. Those will be during the day, and then we will also have opportunities for tutoring and assistance after school. I'll tell you that for our upper level students, so students in grades 6 through 12, if they are successful with the e-learning model being completely remote, we will continue to provide whatever the supports are that they need. But if they sort of self-identify as not being successful, if they are not coming to classes online, if they are not performing, or if they simply say they need help, we will make arrangements to bring them onto the campus to get them the help that they need to be successful. It's very probable that a student may do terrific in social studies and English language arts through the e-learning environment, but find that they're struggling with math and science. If that's the case, we will bring them onto campus. They will work with a teacher during the school day. We will transport them here and back, and they will have instruction and assistance with the teachers. So what we're doing with the e-learning at the upper levels is doing the best that we can to support them electronically through e-learning. But if it's not working, we will do everything we can to bring them onto campus safely to provide supports for them. Let's see, you ready to go?
Sure.
Absolutely.
All right. The next question I'm going to pass to Ms. Pavone. If a parent of a prospect child answered undecided or unknown on hybrid or e-learning, is there a deadline to submit a decision?
Do you want me to give them the bad news, or do you want to?
Well, what we did is if you were undecided or unsure, we actually added you to the hybrid because it's easier to plan with those numbers in mind. But if you could let us know within the next couple of days for sure, that would help. If we did not hear back from a family at this point, they are in e-learning. So if you're undecided, we determined it was easier to leave you in the bus mix, and hopefully we'll be in contact, or you can be in contact with us what your final decision is.
Right, so unfortunately the deadline for that was yesterday at noon, but we erred on the side of hybrid if you were undecided, and if we just simply didn't hear back from you, we spent 5 days contacting and really did our best to get information out, but we couldn't hold up the progress moving forward. You've been put into e-learning. If those are changes, please let us know as soon as possible. So Amanda, let's see, I have one child in the high school and one in Prospect. Will there be someone to show parents how to access everything? Yes, I will tell you that one of the issues that we had and heard from our parents as well, quite frankly, as from our teachers, is that there were too many places that people had to go to get information about academics. They were getting emails, They were getting, they were using class pages. They might have been having a Zoom meeting set up. For this year, everything is going through class pages. Class pages is our learning management system. We will provide, as I said, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. assistance. There will be instructional, sort of videos and tutors for parents to see and understand, but quite frankly, sometimes that's not the best setup. So Amanda, I know that if you have a question about, how your son or daughter's doing in a certain grade and you can't figure out to get online, all you'll need to do is pick up a phone, a human being will answer it, and we will take you through the steps of how to access the information about your child's performance at that point in time. And like I said, all subjects, everything goes through one place. We've also put Remind 101 in place for grades 4 through 12. That system is being directly tied into the teaching system so that as assignments become due, automatic reminders will go out to the student. Parents, if you want to sign up for that, you don't even have to go to look what to do. You will just get a notice, and at dinner while you're sitting there, you can pretend that you know everything about your child's life and say, hey, listen, did you turn in that math assignment? I see it's due in 2 days. Our goal is that all three of us, the parent or guardian, the child and student, and the staff here all need to be on the same page. And we have some great technology resources that have been put in over the summer to help with that. Let's see. Oh, and Levi has already put information about how they can get in touch right now. Will high school have Zoom classes? So some classes will be done through Zoom, but I mentioned that class pages is really the format where students will be able to go to have videos. They will use that to actually access the Zoom office hours for upper level students, so grades 6 through 12. So yes, they will have Zoom classes, but that will be one of several different resources that teachers can use. Do you want to go ahead?
Sure.
All
A question about children wearing masks the whole day. Do they bring their own? If a child wants to and a parent feels more comfortable bringing their own mask in, absolutely. We will have masks available for students and staff in 4 sizes. We will take and give those masks to everyone each day if they need them. We will also be laundering them and sanitizing them each day. We have an armada of masks available should we need them. But if a child feels more comfortable wearing their own mask and that's going to give them a sense of comfort, that's certainly acceptable too. And no, they do not need to wear the mask for the whole day, so long as they are socially distanced from other children or adults, or if they are seated in their workstation within a classroom setting. Then they can remove their masks, and similarly when they're eating lunch they can also remove their masks. But during those other times we would expect and talk with the children and the adults for that matter to make sure that they're wearing their masks.
That's correct. Did you say that they can remove their mask while eating lunch, Mr.
Yes,
Breitenstein?
they can.
Okay, terrific.
You'd be surprised at how many people forget that.
Yes. So a couple other just pieces there that were brought up. We will have protective, clear barriers in the classrooms where students are. There are social distancing practices that are put in place. But let's just take, what does an average day going to look like for a student who's coming into the school? So a student will be picked up at the bus stop. As they get onto the bus, 2 things will happen. They will have their temperature read electronically from a distance by a monitor on the bus, who will also distribute, if the student does not have a mask. We have, as we said, 4 different sizes of masks that are available. The student will pick up that mask, go in, sit at their designated seat. The bus loading procedure is a little bit different in the back. They're skipped seats. We, I believe, had said today that 15 is the maximum that we're allowing on a 60-passenger bus. So the density of that bus is going to be greatly reduced. They will come into school. They will get dropped off. Each bus is coming sort of at a different time so that we don't have a backup of students. As they get off the bus, they'll be greeted and welcomed into the building. As they walk into the building, they will also run through a thermal temperature scanner, which will unobtrusively from 20 feet away take the temperature reading once again, and then they'll go to their classroom where instruction will occur. Breakfast and lunch to start out will be provided in the classrooms, and we anticipate getting them into the cafeterias, but just as I said before, we're starting with a lot of controls in place. They'll eat breakfast and lunch in the classroom. They'll be able to take their masks off as long as they can maintain proper social distancing. We're working to have several opportunities for either recess or physical education. That's going to look a little bit different. They'll likely have to have masks on if they're going out to the playground, but we have processes in place because just like honestly you or I, nobody wants to sit at a desk for 4 or 5 hours at a point in time. We wholeheartedly understand that and value the importance of getting up and being able to move around. At the end of the day, they'll progress to their bus, and after they get off the bus, they'll take the mask. If they used one of ours, it'll go into the dirty bin, and those will get sanitized through the appropriate sanitizing procedures, and eventually put back out into circulation after a few days. Let's see, is an estimated time when high school students will start a hybrid schedule? Okay, so that's a great question. At this point in time, I can't say that we have a date as far as when that will start. We will be continuously monitoring that, and a lot of that is going to depend on how many students need to come in because they are not being successful. We will have some special education students, depending upon their programming, who are going to be on campus. I can tell you that simply our goal is to get as many students back. We understand the difficulties that this presents for parents who are working, but at the same time, we need to make sure everyone is comfortable and doing it in a safe manner, and that's safe for our students as well as for our staff. Mrs. Beaver, at some point in time, I think I said you were going to talk about something, which I've already forgotten, but you haven't talked in a while. Do you want to share some thoughts?
Seneca's plan. So Seneca School will begin using the e-learning approach for instruction at September 1st through the 11th. The students' devices and learning materials should be delivered August 26th, 27th, or 28th. And this will be done much like we did in the spring. Everyone will have the resources they need prior to September 1st. At the beginning of the school year, we will focus on the social emotional needs of the students, as well as reviewing and assessing where the students are academically to best determine our instruction moving forward. We will use the class pages as the primary platform for students to access all class content, including the special areas like art, music, PE, library, STEAM, and home and careers. Students and families will be familiar with this from the spring. All the content they will need will be uploaded on class pages so they can access what they need for the day when it's convenient for them. Each grade level will be holding morning meetings via Zoom. We'd like all students to attend this. This will provide an opportunity for teachers to explain and clarify the work that needs to be completed for the day, as well as to take attendance. We will begin to phase the students into the building around September 14th, and this would be our grades 4 and 5 students at this time. Students will either attend A days, which would be Monday and Tuesday, or B days, Thursday and Friday. We are working with Prospect to ensure all families end up together on the same days. Grades 6 and 7, we're hoping to phase in towards the end of the month. Wednesdays will be e-learning for everyone. So students choosing the hybrid model will have the support of the teachers in the building during a shortened school day. And on the days when the students are not face-to-face, they will be expected to participate in the e-learning. And the e-learning would be, they'd be asked to watch lessons prior to attending their Zoom times. During the scheduled Zoom times, they'll have an opportunity to receive additional support and instruction as needed. And then we'll also use that Remind as another form of communication. The Seneca teachers and staff have received a significant amount of professional development on e-learning and a variety of technology to utilize with the students. So I'm confident that, moving forward, we're going to do this much better than we did in the spring. And so our content is going to be very rigorous and advanced, and there'll be clear expectations in place for everyone with e-learning as well as the health and safety at Seneca.
All right, terrific. Thank you. So let's see. Nicole has asked about hand sanitizer and supplies. School supplies will be completely provided by the district once again, and that's for people that are on hybrid or totally e-learning. We're working about how we can get the supplies for those folks who are on e-learning, how we are providing those at home. I believe we have said that those are going to be delivered to homes on the 26th and 27th. If for one reason or another you're not able to get them, just simply give our buildings a call. We will coordinate a way for you to pick up those supplies. So hand sanitizer, yes, we have hand sanitizer as well as a wide range of PPE, so personal protective equipment, throughout all of our buildings. We not only have alcohol-based hand sanitizer, but I believe you can stand pretty much in any one of our halls and be within eye distance of a hand sanitizing station that uses a product called TheraWorks. TheraWorks is a medical institution grade hand sanitizer, as well as a barrier that protects against COVID. You will find that being used in all, at least, well, not all, many hospitals. It's an exceptionally high quality product that we're very happy to be able to have here on campus for our staff and students. So they do not need to bring hand sanitizer themselves. We have that, and we'll make sure that that's available for anyone and everyone.
Okay, let me start with the question from Allison regarding co-curriculars, clubs, and activities. Right now, based on the plan that we have in place, the co-curriculars will be paused until we can actually have students on campus more regularly. That said, we have communicated to the advisors that if they have a unique idea and a way that they can run the co-curriculars in a remote fashion, we will absolutely entertain that. But as of today, we just don't know how that's possible without students on campus. Some courses, classes, co-curriculars are much more accommodating and able to do it in that fashion. Such as newspaper and perhaps student government, but other clubs and activities just simply can't run if the students aren't here, such as archery or trap club or some of the other activities. As for media classes, I'm going to defer that one to Mr. Siebert to talk about some of the elective courses in general, if he can provide some guidance for that.
Currently, the media classes and many of our electives are going to continue to run as they were, supposed to. All the teachers are still pretty much planning to continue the instruction in those. Media is a challenge, like some of the other classes. However, with the Zoom capabilities and things like that, we are still able to possibly put together announcements and things like that that can go out.
Terrific. I'm thinking, Mr. Siebert, that it might be a great idea to have any of our students who are involved in student government to actually help us, whether they're through e-learning or on campus once in a while, to do a better job. So, Allison, I'm going to just go out on a ledge here with Mr. Siebert and say we're going to do what we can to put the student government in place for this year, so that we as adults have feedback on what's going well and what's not going well. That's part of your job as a student government official. And at this point in time, I think it's even more critical that we get feedback, not just from parents, but from the students here. So I think Mr. Siebert's probably on page with that. Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. They've done a fantastic job over the last couple of,
Terrific.
They've done a fantastic job over the last couple of years and really made some good recommendations for changes, at the high school level. So
Great.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think that'd be terrific. So Lisa McKenna has asked, how can the Prospect School and Seneca School be safe for hybrid, but not the high school? So one of the answers to that question is sort of based on the structure of the school setting at Seneca and Prospect compared to a high school setting where students change classes for every single subject. Part of the decision factors that were one of the factors that went into the decision we made is that we were committed to providing a comprehensive high school, meaning we're not just going to teach one English class to all 11th grade students or one math class. We're going to continue with all of the electives to the best that we can. And what that means is that students at the high school are sort of on a regular, if they're on campus, they travel everywhere throughout the high school. And we're not capable of rotating the teachers through. So what that means is our ability to keep students together in cohorts, which are the recommendations from the State Education Department and the CDC. We can do that at Seneca and Prospect. Unfortunately, we can't do that and still provide, 6 different teachers on any given day to teachers at the high school, or to students at the high school. I know that there's a lot of anxiety and concern over high school students not being on campus. The only thing that I can ask is for a little bit of patience so that we can put a system in place based upon what we see at the high school to get more and more students on. That is many of your goals as well as our goal. We just need to have some things operationally put in place, assess them, and then start to move more and more students on campus.
There have been a series of questions also about transportation changes. And we would simply ask for parents who are self-transporting their child or children, thank you. That is helping us to provide better transportation to those families who need transportation. But if students are on our bus, we really need to communicate that the spontaneous changes of transportation at any given moment in time, we are really going to need to clamp down and simply say that we're not going to be able to accommodate that safely. And we would ask for some patience for the families to make sure that we limit any midday or spontaneous transportation changes. That said, it is our belief and expectation we want kids to be safe and to be transported to where they need to get to. But those midday transportation changes that sometimes come at 1 o'clock are just going to be for safety reasons, not really permissible. The second element that I do want to communicate with folks, and I can see that there are some high school parents on the call as well, is that as of today, high school athletics for the fall season, football, soccer, tennis, volleyball, swim, those activities are still on for September 21st in a shortened and condensed season for the fall. However, there is some chatter that's happening today that suggests that the New York State Public High School Athletic Association will be coming out with guidance by the end of this week that may clarify or adjust that schedule. So if you have a high school student from 7th grade up that may be participating in interscholastic sports, please stay tuned as we expect late breaking news later this week in some form. I wish I had a better answer for those athletes, but we simply do not know, and that is one of the elements that we are not in control of.
Let's see. So vocational VOTEC students, CTE students at Ellicottville, at this point in time, they are 5 days a week because they are able to do the social distancing, and because they don't transfer and go between classes in the same manner that our typical high school students do. So that is 5 days a week. In addition to that, there are some transportation changes that students are able to drive to Ellicottville. There's some paperwork that needs to be done. For those who need transportation, we are doing our best to set up transportation that will be from your home to Ellicottville and then back. So trying to eliminate the stop at the high school and then the congregation here and then getting onto another bus. That information should be out very, very soon at the mid to or early to mid next week. Let's see.
That looks to be most of the questions. I don't think we missed any, but if we did, please let us know. And while folks are checking that, are there any comments from Mrs. Dudek regarding registration or anything from pupil services?
Bridenstine, for registration for any families that are on the call. If you have registered online with us since March, we will be reaching out as soon as the high school parking lot is complete and the locked area for that drop off of the additional paperwork of birth certificates and residency information is available sometime right after the start of school, but all students have been placed into our Power School. And by now you should have received an email from one of my clerks with the step 2 and step 3 of the process. For pupil services, all of our families that have called with questions, we have returned those as of this time. But if you have additional questions for your students that receive any services with an IEP, please feel free to call our office. If your child does have a 504 and you have questions, please feel free to touch base with the 504 chairs or the building principals.
Terrific. How about PT?
Yeah.
We were both going to ask the same
Faster
question.
on the draw.
That's it.
All right, terrific. So for the Seneca parent that your child receives PT, if they are going to be in the hybrid model at Seneca and they are coming in, we will be working with our therapists over the next 2 weeks to have that scheduled to perform as many of those services while the students are here. Again, if they are here 2 days a week and they have services 3 or 4 days a week, it's impossible to do all the services face-to-face. So some of those services will take part via teletherapy as they did in the spring. And that goes for the same for speech, OT, and counseling as well.
Terrific. Thank you. So a question from prospect parent who has a concern, as I guess I would too, since I made a big deal out of it, about the perhaps safety of a hospital grade germicide. I can tell you this, that it is, as I said, a hospital grade. That doesn't mean that it's like that brown Listerine that we used to get when we went to the dentist that I feel like it created more pain than did good. This is actually exceptionally safe. It's actually safe to be used around the eyes, nose, and mouth because it is that gentle. So we didn't just go out and purchase sort of the diesel fuel grade of sanitizer. This is actually a high quality, safe germicide that can be used for students across the board. We also are a proponent of frequent and proper hand washing, proper being the key. One of the things that all of our students and staff and any adult who comes onto the campus for any period of time is going to go through is basic instruction on respiratory hygiene, hand washing, proper use of a mask, how to take the mask off. So we're starting right at ground one with the basics, and we understand and respect the importance of proper and frequent hand washing. There was one other question up. Oh, extra help. So that's a great question. iPhone, thank you. So we are committed to ensuring that we continue to provide tutoring services and really any extra help that students need in order to be successful. And that can be either during our regular school hours or after hours. We will be announcing shortly that we will have tutoring available through our community education department. Those tutors will articulate with the teachers in the classroom. So there will sort of be this ongoing multi-hour support, not just during the school day, but also at home. And quite frankly, if you as a parent say, my son or daughter is struggling, you know, I'm thinking that 9 to 9 sort of helpline, I'm committing to something on the fly right now, might just be a general helpline. So it might not just be tech related. We will work toward getting people that will answer the phone from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. to simply provide assistance. If you have questions over how your kid is doing, we will help you get access to that. If you simply say, my son needs extra math support, we will figure out how to get that for them. Well, I guess this is being recorded, so now we have to do it. So from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., we will provide phone support service in one form or another that will basically take care of whatever need you have as a parent, or for that matter, as a student at home. Oh boy. All right.
Sorry about that. And I'm getting up the chat question here. The question from Stephanie was, what day does school start? For students, it will start with e-learning on September 1st, and information and communication will be coming out from the buildings next week.
Let's see. I believe we have answered all of the questions that have been asked up to this point.
There
please, oh yeah, I'm not ending just yet. What I want to do is make sure that if we haven't answered a question or if we overlooked it, just put it again in one of the chat features and we'll make sure we get to it.
Or if you're interested in having Dr. Buehler talk more about hand sanitizer, he has
Yes,
become a
I can do
premier
that.
expert.
I can do that as well.
There is a question from Colleen, if there are spaces left in the pre-K program. Ms. Pavone or Mrs. Dudek, would you care to handle that?
There are still spaces available. So we have several openings in all 3 classrooms.
To register for those spots, please visit our website, and on the main page that Dr. Buehler showed at the beginning of today's meeting, there's a tab that says New Student Registration, and follow the prompts from there and we will assist you.
Earlier, there was a question about prospect setup discussed in the phone call where Zoom sessions being set at a regular schedule for prospect.
Oh, thanks.
And we're still continuing with that philosophy. We're going to have multiple times. I'll give first grade as an example. So first grade may have ELA opportunities at 9:30, 10:15, 1 o'clock. Don't quote me on those times though, those could be wrong. But you as a parent would say those are times that work. You would select one of those times that would work for your first grader. And we would be doing the same for math and science and social studies. We're also going to have a homeroom huddle every morning that your child will be expected to come to. That's kind of where we're taking our daily attendance and letting them know what their expectation is for the day, what they need to get done. And then their Zoom times will be reinforcement of the items that they're learning from class pages. So there will be more of a set schedule. I do know with working families that there's difficulty there. So with the idea in mind that we'll have support after, we're looking at a power hour in the evening to be able to support the kids that weren't able to attend during some of those sessions for a variety of reasons.
All right. Let's see. One question, will all prospect students get preschool walkthrough?
We're going to do a transition to the building day for each grade level. So for example, 3rd grade will come on September 8th, not for the full day. They'll be able to come with a parent to go down to the classroom, see what the classroom looks like, see where they need to wear masks, just so that when they come in the first day, it's not overwhelming to have to do that for the first time, and to also ease you as parents so you can see what the classroom setup looks like and that it's still a good environment, and that we do have all the social distancing practices in place so they don't have to wear masks all the time. And as the week progresses, we'll go through each grade level. We think it's extremely critical for our pre-K and K students, especially our kindergarten who haven't been in the building before, to have that exposure to our building with one of their trusted adults, because we know the first day we can't just drop them off at the building.
All right, thank you. And Elaine, I'm sorry to hear that you are not able to get into the portal there to register your son. In a moment, Mrs. Dudek is going to give you a phone number that you can use to get help, once again, from a real person who can help you with that process. Mrs. Dudek, what phone number should she call?
I actually spoke with this mom earlier today. Levi, can I have your extension because it is a portal issue, not a registration issue? All right, so that would be 716-945-2400, extension 5552, and Levi will be able to help you with that portal issue. If after speaking with Levi, you still cannot get into the portal, then Levi will just ask if you could have either Debbie or Shelley send a packet home to mom through the mail. Thank you.
All right, terrific.
Answer one of the other questions that was up above.
Sure,
for
fire
Rosie.
away.
Rosie, if you have additional questions, you are right. The information that is going out tonight is about the students that are attending the Salamanca school buildings, Prospect, Seneca, and the high school. Myself and Mr. Parisi, my assistant, have reached out to all of the families with students that are attending out-of-district placements, Boces or Randolph, or some of our preschool locations, including the League. If you have additional questions and your questions were not answered, or you have not had a follow-up phone call from Boces, I know they are making those phone calls this week, please don't hesitate to reach out to our office at 945-5142.
Thank you. We have one more question from prospect parent regarding ELA classes. Is that going to be 5 or 3 days? I'm going to give that to Ms. Pavone because whenever there's a choice of 2, I always pick the wrong one. So go ahead.
That time will be available. So our hope is that if you choose the 10 o'clock time, they'd be able to attend the 10 o'clock time every single day just to be able to reinforce those skills. In communications and discussions with the teachers, we know it's not going to be any longer than 20 to 30 minutes. They can't be on Zoom for more than that amount of time and have it be productive and successful. But they do need that daily reinforcement and practice. So daily.
And will any of that be recorded so that students who might be a pre-K or K or in childcare or, you know, say, let's say daycare, how will they access that instruction?
So all of our lessons are going to be recorded and stored on class pages. And our goal eventually, once we get the kids used to it, is that they would actually watch the short 10 to 15-minute video prior to joining the Zoom. So when they come to the Zoom, they're actually practicing the items from the lesson. So if they aren't available to watch the Zoom lesson during the day because they're at daycare, hopefully they'd be able to watch it after and get that reinforcement after the fact.
Mr. Siebert, how about e-learning option for students in high school? When do we think that will start?
We are planning for that to start no later than September 14th. So that beginning of the 3rd week.
Terrific. Thank you. All right, Mr. Breinstein.
I think that, let me see here.
I think that's everything.
I think that's everything. In this crazy COVID environment of COVID 2.0, I do want to share some good news that we think is something to be hopeful, that we are making great progress over at Vets Park. And while it may seem kind of out of scope and the norm, I think it's important in a crisis to have something positive to look forward to. The work at Vets Park is progressing with great excitement. The multi-purpose football, soccer, lacrosse turf field, absent the coloration and tone of the center field logo at midfield, is all but done in the field. If we were ready, Coach Bartosik and Coach Hill would be out there practicing. So we'll wait for New York to decide on sports, but the construction at the park is coming along nicely. The gigantic Jumbotron scoreboard is up, and they will be back next week remobilizing to install the turf on the baseball field. And when it is completed, we will have the largest scoreboard in New York State Public High School, as well as one of the largest, if not the largest in our area, turf footprint of 240,000 square feet of turf, of amazing opportunities for our athletes to play, compete, and practice in a state-of-the-art facility. And if you want to circle your calendars, we are anticipating a ribbon cutting and grand opening at the park on April 12th.
All right, terrific. We did have one last question come in from Amy regarding work on Zoom. That's a good question. Our goal here is to be able to provide instruction that's challenging for all of our students, no matter what level they're on. So I would hope that our Zoom sessions and lessons are not only meeting the needs of students who are sort of at grade level, but also challenging those that are above grade level. So I'm going to say that at least initially, and these are things that you can work out with the teacher, as far as, you know, going and sitting in a Zoom class just to sit there, we can all agree isn't necessarily the most useful amount of time. But we would encourage them to attend those Zoom sessions, or at least be checking in with their teacher once a day. Is there attendance meeting or roll call for? Okay, so great question from Lisa regarding attendance. Yes, so the class pages, embedded within that, we can monitor the frequency, whether or not a student has logged into the class pages for that day or into the certain content. So let's say if they went into their algebra class, how much time they spent in there. That's how attendance is going to be taken on a daily basis. So we know whether a student is participating or not. If students are not participating, they're going to get a phone call home just like they were not in school. So we're able to monitor attendance and keep track of not just attendance, but how active a student is through the e-learning process. We also can see the parent sign in and out. So it's not as though we're going to be tracking you, but we, this way we'll identify if there are parents who have not signed in, and we'll likely reach out to say, hey, listen, we're here to help. How can we help you to, sign in once in a while and be able to monitor the progress of your son and daughter or your student? All right.
Absent any other questions that we haven't answered? Okay,
All right.
there may be one that came via Facebook.
I'll
for
start
Levi.
to, let's see. So why was Salamanca not offered a 5-day in-school learning as other local schools did? Okay, so I'm hoping I sort of addressed that before. So our goal is to move toward students on campus as much as possible. We don't believe that we can bring all of our students on campus at the same time in a safe manner. In fact, that would violate a large number of the population density or the number of students that we can have in a certain location. So we had to phase them in. There are a couple districts that are quite small within our region that are allegedly able to do that. But for us, that is exceptionally challenging. As I've said, we are going to work toward that, but having all 5 students or students on campus all 5 days means that we're back to classes of 15 to 18 and buses filled to capacities that would exceed what our limitations are. So the other, frankly, the other piece of that is we surveyed our parents and made phone calls to all of them. 46% of them identified that they wanted a full e-learning approach. So that's part of what we put in place. So as we become more confident with our ability to safely provide instruction on site, we're going to scale that up so that we can bring our students back as much as possible.
There was a question that we hadn't adequately answered. Thank you, Dr. Hayes, for reminding us about devices being transported back and forth. And I think that's perhaps a question best tossed to the principals as to what their plan with the mobile devices is for each building.
The high school, again, we're going to be doing the e-learning. My guess is that yes, the students would be responsible for bringing them to and from school. That way they can continue to work on assignments and things like that at home if need be. I guess no different than if they were going to be taking their homework home and bringing it back to school the next day. So the expectation at the high school is yes, they would be transporting that back and forth.
Thank you. So we have a question, why is daycare considered a safer alternative for 3 days a week? I don't have a good answer to that. I don't know as though it is a safer alternative for 3 days a week. Depending upon the daycare facility, the number of students that they have in, they may be able to meet the requirements. I know many daycares are at the most 50% capacity. Daycare and childcare is a significant struggle for all of our parents in this area because there simply isn't enough because of the limitations there. So, we're looking to do the best that we can for our students and our community in the safest manner possible. I don't know as though I'm in a position where we can compare different systems to each other. And quite frankly, I don't know as though that's something that we want to do. All I know is that we've taken the input from our community and our staff and the parents, put together the best program that we can that's scalable and adaptable, and we will move forward in the safest direction that we can. And if that means students are on campus more frequently, that's better for all of us. So, there we go.
The other element to that that's somewhat daycare related is that we've had conversations with the Seneca Nation Education Department, and what we understand they plan on doing for students that are under the umbrella of the Education Department through the nation is that they will be utilizing their available spaces, whether it be the ACC, the SALC, or ECLC, or other locations throughout the nation on the Allegheny territory to have learning hubs or pods. We will be partnering and providing them whatever technical support they might need and assistance if that happens for students that may have enrolled status within the nation. That said, Dr. Buehler is right. Childcare across the region is really at a crisis epidemic point. We have partnered with Accord Access, and that's ACCORD Access, ACCESS. They're based out of Belmont in Allegheny County, but they have partnerships across Chautauqua, Cattaraugus, and Allegheny counties to provide linkages for essential workers, childcare workers, and other individuals that may have childcare needs being deemed essential workers during the crisis. If there are concerns with that, we can reach out and contact them, and they can provide you some linkages. If you have specific childcare questions, you can give me a call at the office at 945-2400 extension 4025. I'll ask Levi to put up my email address and my cell phone number also. If there's anything that we can do to help facilitate that, we are more than happy to do that, but simply that is a pretty tall lift for us. But we won't walk away from it at this point in time. It's just a big lift, and we're going to need some community help for that as well.
So we do have a question from Lynn, which is a question we haven't been asked yet. And that's terrific because that will help us to troubleshoot this ahead of time. So how will childcare providers sign children in and out of Zoom or class pages? I have 4 different grade level students. Will the parents need to figure that out? I don't know as though I don't know if I have a good answer to that at this point in time. But that's something that we will address and get the answer out. Our goal is not to, make this challenging for other people who will be working with students at home or in a different setting. So we'll come up with a solution for that. And I thank you for that question because that hasn't come up yet.
I think the other part to that too is we're not in a punitive mindset, and there's been a lot of conversation what to do with a 5-year-old who takes his mask off. We're here to help educate children and to present good, effective role modeling for younger children. Sometimes they influence us in a positive way, and hopefully we influence them in a positive way. We will talk with students, we will remind them, we will coach them, we will encourage them, we will communicate with the families. This isn't going to be swing a stick. This is going to be build those relationships, provide those learning opportunities for each and every child. And if there are specific concerns, we have the staff that can provide that targeted support through social emotional learning curriculums, parent conversations, check-ins, huddles. I would just simply say that my experience with the children that I've seen in community forums or community locations, the supermarket, Home Depot, Lowe's, etc. I think kids are pretty resilient with this. And if they find that they need a break, we will build in those breaks for them. But we are not in a punitive mindset.
And that sort of follows through for Nikki's question, which talks about, do I need to have my son check into every single class every day if the work is being done and done well? I'm going to leave that a little bit to work out between the student and the teachers and the principal. But this isn't good. This is about ensuring that students are successful, and whatever success looks like in the process to get there, it's going to be a little bit different. We understand that, we respect that, and everybody learns in a different way. And we are dedicated to teaching to students' strengths and not simply making weaknesses greater. So I can't give you the definite answer, but that would be within our philosophy. We don't want anybody getting in trouble for not logging in for a certain subject. So I think through class pages and some of the added on features we have, the ability to communicate through that is very significant with individual teachers. So I'm pretty confident that that can get worked out successfully. All right.
So with that as a backdrop, we will continue to be available. On the website is Dr. Beeler's information. Levi has posted my information here. We will post this form on the website with our other forums that we've had over the last week. Things will change. Things will evolve undoubtedly, whether it's because of the circumstances that happen because of the virus or governor directives. We will respond to those changes in a thoughtful, meticulous manner. We will continue to take your input. We will continue to provide you a vehicle for communication to let you know how we're doing. And we would encourage you to let us know how we are doing. As we wrap up tonight, I want to thank all the community members and the staff for joining and the students for joining us tonight. I want to thank our administrators for being here as well. And I think that we've got a lot of work to do between now and when next week comes for the staff, and then the following Tuesday for when the students return to our campuses electronically for the first 4 days, and then preparing for them to return in a more hybrid on-campus model as we can safely accommodate. Thank you, everyone. Please be safe, and please let us know if there's anything else we missed or anything we can do to provide you support, and especially your child or children's support as part of our Warrior Nation. Thank you.